starting with 1 million luck points. Chapter 431, Lost Contact. Zhou Hao narrowed his eyes and sneered when he saw the wilderness golden eagle's reaction. He naturally knew what it was thinking. Wasteland gold eagle, don't think it's that simple. What I mean is this. I will insert something into your body that will make you listen to me. After all, it's useless to just agree verbally. If you're disobedient, I'll be able to kill you with a thought. Therefore, if you want to submit to me, you have to insert this thing into your body. After Zhou Hao finished speaking, the wasteland golden eagle was immediately dumbfounded. It turned out that this was what he meant. Big brother human, aren't you being too much? The wasteland gold eagle immediately could not help but speak out. What was the difference between doing this and dying? If it disobeyed him, it would die. Wouldn't that mean that its life would still be in danger in the future? Too much? Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking about getting help after you leave, right? At that time, you can ambush me and kill me. After that, you can continue to reap the benefits of this gem, right? Zhou Hao directly exposed the other party's thoughts, making the wasteland gold eagle's expression change drastically. It did not expect this human brat to think of this. Hehe, wasteland gold eagle, you're really underestimating me. Do you think I don't know what you're thinking? I'll give you two choices now. One is to die here. The other is to listen to me and let me insert the beast control ring into your body. Choose. As Zhou Hao spoke, he took out his beast control ring. At the same time, he held the black dragon spear tightly in his other hand. The spear light emitted cold killing intent as he pointed at the wasteland golden eagle. The wilderness golden eagle in the wasteland was furious. He did not expect this human to be even more shameless than him. It was furious. However, it had no choice but to accept its fate. I choose to submit. It could only lower its head. Instead of dying now, it might as well submit. If this brat died one day, wouldn't it be free? Zhou Hao smiled. He knew that the other party would definitely make this decision, therefore, he directly implanted this beast control ring into its body. Immediately, a force controlled the wasteland golden eagle. As for Zhou Hao, with the thought, he could end its life at any moment. Alright, you can continue to cultivate here. However, my request is that you can't let this place be discovered. Otherwise, you still won't be able to escape death. Do you understand? Zhou Hao ordered. When the call connected, Bai Linglong's voice sounded. Little guy, you haven't contacted me for a long time. I heard that you've also broken through to the supernatural level. Congratulations! Bai Linglong was very happy. After all, she was the one who had raised Zhou Hao. Although it had only been a short year, they were still somewhat close. Instructor Bai, I wanted to contact you, but I was afraid that you would be busy. Zhou Hao coughed dryly and could not help but say. Haha, alright, I'll forgive you. Tell me, what's the matter? Bai Linglong smiled and said, not caring at all. It's like this, Instructor Bai. Su Ling has been taken away by the Su family, but I can't contact her now. It's been a few days. I'm a little worried, so. Zhou Hao was really somewhat embarrassed, but he still had to ask. When Bai Linglong heard this, she understood and sighed. Sigh Zhou Hao, I'm really sorry. I really can't help you. Although we're both from one of the Green Cloud Division's 12 families, I can't interfere in their matters at all. Therefore, I can't help you much. After saying this, Zhou Hao was very depressed. If even Bai Linglong couldn't help him, who could he ask for help? Could Zhu Zhao be able to help? However, with Zhou Hao's identity, he was unable to contact Zhu Zhao at all. Should he consider recovering his identity as Senior Zhou? Zhou Hao also felt that it was not appropriate. At this moment, Bai Linglong said, Zhou Hao, I know what you're thinking, but the Su family is not an ordinary family. I've also heard of the Su family's way of doing things. Therefore, I feel that the relationship between you and Su Ling is a little difficult, but it's not impossible. Bai Linglong's first words surprised Zhou Hao a little, but her next words made Zhou Hao's expression change. Bai Linglong naturally had her reasons for saying this. Instructor Bai, tell me if there's anything going on. I want to know. Chapter 432, Battle God Battalion. Bai Linglong sighed and pondered for a long time before saying, Zhou Hao, I know your situation. I also know the relationship between you and Su Ling. However, the Su family is a huge obstacle. Their Su family values absolute power and strength. You're only a supernatural expert, so they naturally don't think much of you. But what if you're at the heaven realm or above? Even the Su family will value you. Moreover, heaven realm martial artists have a certain level of authority. Therefore, you have two choices. One is to have absolute strength and make the Su family have no choice but to take you seriously. The other is to have absolute status, which will also make the Su family take you seriously. However, it should be impossible for you to become a heaven realm expert in a short period of time. Even if you have extraordinary talent, you still need time. You can wait, but Su Ling might not be able to. Bai Linglong had only spoken the truth. Zhou Hao naturally understood and also knew that only absolute strength would be valued by the Su family. And this strength, other than martial strength, was status. The former was difficult to establish in a short period of time, but the latter might be possible. Zhou Hao could tell from Bai Linglong's words that this was what she meant. And my current suggestion is status. Of course, with your current strength, it's probably very difficult for you to make a name for yourself and impress the Su family. The best way is to have a backer. Sigh if your master was still around. Perhaps this matter could have been done. However, forget it, let's not talk about your master. Bai Linglong sighed and was somewhat depressed. Therefore, what you need now is a backer who is at least a 5th grade heaven realm expert. When Bai Linglong said this, Zhou Hao sighed. Where could he find such a backer? Wasn't this a joke? Moreover, this was a private matter. How could a big shot help him offend the Su family? Wasn't this a fantasy? Instructor Bai, I'm afraid what you're saying is not easy to do either. Zhou Hao could not help but say. Bai Linglong smiled. Actually, that's not impossible. Although our human race has 7 large divisions, there are still other organizations that are not inferior to our division. And among them, there's really a place that's most suitable for you. When Zhou Hao heard this, he was stunned for a moment and could not help but say, where? Battle God Battalion. Bai Linglong took a deep breath. After she finished speaking, Zhou Hao was immediately stunned. Battle God Battalion? He really did not know and had never heard of this before. The members of the Battle God Battalion are all very talented warriors. Not only do they resist the mutated beasts and powerful enemies, but they also have the responsibility to supervise the human experts. However, the entry requirements are very high. Only geniuses have the chance to join. And you indeed have the chance to join the Battle God Battalion. If you want, I can help you apply. At that time, whether or not you can enter will depend on you. After Bai Linglong finished speaking, Zhou Hao took a deep breath and nodded. Till join. Bai Linglong smiled. You can join if you want to. However, I still have to tell you that the Battle God Battalion is very dangerous. The missions they carry out are all extremely dangerous. It's not as simple as resisting the spatial rift. It Has to be known that planet Earth is so big and there are many potential dangers. They are dealing with all types of enemies. However, the advantage is that the status and authority of those who join the Battle God Battalion will be different. No one is willing to offend the Battle God Battalion. Even our Green Cloud Division does not dare to. Although they don't interfere with the matters of the various divisions, to a certain extent, the Battle God Battalion definitely has the right to rule our Green Cloud Division. Bai Linglong's words shocked Zhou Hao greatly. He had never expected such a place to exist. However, the time for this application will not be short. Wait patiently. I still can't give you an accurate answer. Bai Linglong smiled. Zhou Hao was very grateful and could not help but say, "Thank you, instructor." Bai. There's no need to thank me yet. Actually, I'm not only doing this for you, but also for your master. Although Bai Linglong did not elaborate further, Zhou Hao still understood. Senior Zhou was now wanted and there was nothing she could do about it. She also hoped that Zhou Hao could develop well in the Battle God Battalion and have a chance to decide on Senior Zhou's matter. At the same time, Su Chong was sitting in his office with a frown. He looked out the window with an incomparably solemn expression and could not help but think to himself, where did this person die? It would be fine if he was really dead. However, if he was not, what would Su Chong do if Zhou Tai exposed him? After all, Zhou Tai was a quasi-heaven realm expert. If he died, it would not be good for the family. If Zhou Tai was killed by the mutated beasts, it would not be a big deal. After all, many experts died at the hands of the mutated beasts every year. However, if he died in the hands of humans or was controlled, what would Su Kong do if the order for assassination was exposed? After all, Zhou Hao was someone specially nurtured by the division and was a relatively powerful expert. If he was really exposed, he probably wouldn't be able to answer to the people of the division. The more he thought about it, the more furious Su Chong became. He could not help but have a worried expression. If Zhou Tai was still alive, he would probably think of a way to contact him. However, since Zhou Tai did not contact him, there was a high chance that Zhou Tai was dead. However, he couldn't understand why an expert at the quasi-heaven realm would have an accident when killing a supernatural expert. This did not make sense. Could it be that Zhou Hao's master, Senior Zhou, has made a move? He was wanted and couldn't be found at all. Perhaps he's hiding beside Zhou Hao. After all, no one has seen this Senior Zhou before. That's right, that must be the case. Only Senior Zhou has the strength to kill a quasi-heaven realm expert. Su Chong took a deep breath. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that his guess was right. I'm just afraid that Senior Zhou didn't kill him and instead captured him. If I get exposed, I'll be done for. Su Chang's eyes were filled with worry and hesitation. After thinking for a moment, he could not help but wonder if he should tell this to his father. If his father knew, the two of them could still discuss a countermeasure. At that time, his father might even be able to help him come up with an idea to resolve this problem. However, would his father blame him for acting rashly? After thinking about it, Su Chong gritted his teeth and his eyes were filled with determination. He prepared to tell his father about this so that his father could help him think of a way to resolve this matter. Chapter 433, Su Donglai. Thinking of this, Su Chong went straight to his father's office. At this moment, Su Chang's father, Su Donglai, was reading documents. The door was pushed open and his son, Su Chong, walked in with a worried expression. "Dad, I have something to tell you. Are you free?" Su Donglai was stunned for a moment. Seeing his son's anxious appearance, he was somewhat surprised. He had not seen his son like this for a long time and was immediately puzzled. All along, with the support of the Su family, his son had always been fearless and knew his limits. Such a situation was very rare, so he guessed that something must have happened. Chong, what's wrong? Su Chong frowned and could not help but ask. Su Chong took a deep breath and was somewhat nervous. He did not know if he should tell his father about this. However, he was unable to resolve this matter. If he did not tell his father, who would he tell? If anything happened, he did not have the ability to resolve the situation. After all, this Zhou Hao was from the elite team and was a subordinate nurtured by Heavenly King Zhu. Of course, he did not care about Heavenly King Zhu either. Their Su family was not so afraid of a Heavenly King Zhu. However, Heavenly King Zhu was backed by Sword King Qing. That person was not a simple Heaven Realm expert, but a true big shot with high authority. This person was the strength of the Green Cloud Division. There were even rumors that said that as long as Sword King Qing was around, the spatial rift would be fine. Now that Su Chong had harmed the elites they had carefully nurtured, he had basically disrespected them. Moreover, the human race had a rule that prohibited them from killing each other. Although this rule was dispensable to large family clans like theirs, it still depended on who the other party was. Su Chong finally understood. Humph, at least you're still able to understand. That senior Zhou has the strength of a peak quasi-heaven realm expert, but his combat strength is not inferior to a heaven realm expert. In fact, I feel that since he had not appeared for such a long time, it's very likely that he already broke through to the heaven realm. Moreover, he even knows how to use Genesis runes. Do you know what kind of power that is? Su Donglai's expression was also solemn as he continued, it would be fine if he killed Zhou Tai. However, I'm afraid that he didn't kill Zhou Tai and instead imprisoned him. If they find an opportunity to publicize this matter, it will undoubtedly bring endless trouble to our Su family. Su Chong was frightened. If it was really Senior Zhou that made a move, it would really be over. It's over if it's really that person. What should we do? So many divisions have tried to capture him, but they haven't been able to do so. If he wants to take revenge on us, it won't be easy for us to entertain him. Su Chong could not help but say. Su Donglai was furious. He snorted coldly and said, even without Senior Zhou around, do you think you can still do as you please? It's not like you don't know. The elite team was established by Heavenly King Zhu Zhao. Moreover, this matter has received the full support of Sword King Qing. If you touch his students, aren't you basically slapping him in the face? Moreover, there's also the Bai family and the Yang family. They're not easy to deal with. Bai Linglong is their instructor, and so is Yang Hui. Although Zhou Hao and the others are only supernatural experts, their backgrounds are not bad either. Bai Linglong and Yang Hui are not simple to deal with either. If they choose to take revenge, it will be quite troublesome if they do end up standing up for Zhou Hao. Su Donglai was furious and said angrily. He really expected better from his son. He did not expect his son to be so useless. He was simply brainless. When Su Chong heard this, his face turned pale and he was even very anxious. Dad, what should we do? I didn't want to kill him, I only did it so that Ling Er can be together with the young master of the Long family. I thought that killing Zhou Hao would cut off Su Ling's thoughts. Our families can become in-laws and our relationship will improve. But who would have expected that this would happen? Su Chong was extremely regretful, but it was too late to say anything now. I know what you're thinking, but you still acted too rashly. Moreover, why use our Su family's people to kill him? Isn't this giving them leverage to use against us? You should have gotten someone else to kill him. In this day and age, killing people and hiring assassins is too easy. Why did you have to take this risk? Su Donglai sighed. Now that it had already happened, it was useless to blame his son. He thought for a moment and said, actually, it might not be as bad as we think. Zhou Hao is not dead now, but we can't contact Zhou Tai. Perhaps Zhou Tai died somewhere else. Chapter 434, Long Aotian. Su Chong was stunned for a moment. After hearing this, he was somewhat surprised, but he quickly understood. Dad, are you saying that Zhou Tai's disappearance might not necessarily be related to Zhou Hao? Su Chong could only think so. Of course, this was the best outcome. That's right. Or perhaps we're overthinking things. After all, Zhou Tai's strength is evident. If he attacked Zhou Hao would very likely die. If Senior Zhou did personally take action, even if Zhou Tai can't defeat him, it's still possible for Zhou Hao to escape. Therefore, I feel that it might not necessarily be related to Zhou Hao. Perhaps the things in the Red Cliff Abyss have come out. Su Donglai frowned and analyzed. Are you talking about the so-called spirits in the Red Cliff Abyss? Su Chong was immediately shocked and could not help but say. Perhaps, but without the exact information, I can't say. However, no matter what, this is still a problem. You have to pay close attention. It's been so many days, but there's still no news. It might not be a bad thing for us. Su Donglai could only comfort himself like this. T'understand, Dad? Su Chong took a deep breath. Oh, right, how are Su Ling and young Master Long doing? At this moment, Su Donglai suddenly said. Not good. After Su Ling returned, she stayed in the training base all day and rarely came out. Young Master Long did go there a few times, but after saying a few words, Su Ling left. I can tell that Su Ling is deliberately avoiding young Master Long. Su Chong said and sighed. Truly don't understand what Su Ling is thinking. Young Master Long is the future successor of the Long family. Although he's not in the martial path, he's still in charge. That man from the Long family is the pillar of the Green Cloud division and it will remain so for decades. Why doesn't she think about the family? Su Chong was very angry and said directly. His tone was filled with dissatisfaction. After all, she's from a side family. It's normal for her to not be able to see the big picture. However, try not to offend Su Ling so easily. After all, she's a genius of the Su family and has been nurtured to marry into a rich family from the start. She has to take this path. Su Donglai tapped the table with his finger and said softly. This matter had long been planned. It was not something that Zhou Hao could mess up. I don't think she has the intention to marry at all. She cultivates all day because she wants to break through to the heaven realm. Moreover, after coming to the Su family headquarters, she has more resources and is improving very quickly. Father, I don't understand what's so good about that Zhou Hao. He's just a supernatural expert. If he was a heaven realm expert, we can still arrange it. What's the use of a mere supernatural expert? It was Long Aotian that she hated the most. Long Aotian was wearing a suit and a pair of sunglasses. He was holding 99 roses and looked handsome and carefree. He walked in front of Su Ling with a smile. The moment Su Ling saw Long Aotian, disgust immediately flashed across her face. However, this disgust quickly disappeared and she looked at him indifferently. She asked unhappily, "Why are you here?" Long Aotian's eyes were filled with eagerness as he chuckled and leaned in front of Su Ling. He said to her, "Hee hee, these are some roses I specially ordered for you. Do you like it? It especially suits your temperament and identity." Long Aotian immediately handed the roses in his hand to Su Ling. However, Su Ling's eyes were filled with incomparable disgust. She suppressed the displeasure on her face and said indifferently, "Sorry, I'm allergic to flowers. I'm afraid I can't accept this." In fact, Su Ling was not allergic to flowers at all. She only said that to reject Long Aotian. Long Aotian was stunned for a moment before he immediately felt incomparably frustrated. Long Aotian regretted not having investigated this matter properly previously. Now that he had almost given her roses that she was allergic to, he did not know how to make it up to her. In order to not let Su Ling feel annoyed, Long Aotian immediately threw the roses into the trash box at the entrance of the training base. Then, he arrived beside Su Ling and followed her forward. "Sorry, I didn't know you were allergic to pollen. It's my fault." "It's fine. Just don't give me anything in the future," Su Ling said coldly, not giving Long Aotian a chance at all. Long Aotian was not discouraged and immediately took a step forward. He smiled and urged, "Give me a chance to apologize to you. How about I treat you to a meal? I know a new Western restaurant nearby. It's said to taste especially good." Su Ling did not even look at Long Aotian and rejected indifferently, "Sorry, I've eaten today. My stomach is very swollen now, and I can't eat anything." Then how about we have a drink? Let's go to a drink shop." Chapter 435, Sleazy Dog. Before Long Aotian could finish speaking, Su Ling stood rooted to the ground and berated him with displeased eyes. "Long Aotian, can't you mind your own business? Why do you have to pester me?" Su Ling was very angry. Why was this person following her around like a dog? Did he not know that she did not want to be bothered by him now? Long Aotian was also somewhat agitated. After all, he was the grand young master, so when had he ever suffered such humiliation? However, he did not flare up. Instead, he smiled. "Su Ling, actually, I'm not pestering you. I'm doing this for the sake of our families. I think you should understand what I mean." When Su Ling heard this, she was even sadder. Did her family nurture her to be this man's nanny and bodyguard? Did she have to sacrifice herself? She was very angry and did not understand why the Su family did this. "Sorry, I don't understand," Su Ling said with disgust. "Hehe, you don't understand? Su Ling, I don't believe you don't understand. I can tell you the truth. Your Su family approved of our relationship. Otherwise, I wouldn't have pestered you. Although I know you don't necessarily like me, I still have to say that I'm the perfect match for you." Long Aotian smiled. Now, he no longer had the intention to curry favor. He was a little agitated and was prepared to expose the truth. "Perfect match? Young Master Long, I don't understand what you're talking about. Moreover, I don't have any thoughts about marriage now. I just want to cultivate and work for the human race," Su Ling said directly. "Hi, isn't it just killing mutated beasts? Your contribution will only be insignificant. Moreover, fighting and killing is too vulgar and boorish. It's meaningless. Moreover, the martial artists now are not worth anything at all. To a big family like ours, a mere supernatural expert is nothing." Long Aotian naturally had the right to say this. The Long family was even stronger than the Su family. However, when Su Ling heard this, she was even more furious. This person simply made her want to vomit. She really did not understand why the Su family wanted her to marry him. "Young Master Long, I advise you to be more respectful to martial artists. You're wearing a suit and leather shoes. You're dressed like a sleazy dog, but it was all thanks to the martial artist you think is worth nothing." After Su Ling finished speaking, she ignored him and disappeared. Long Ao was furious. He stepped on the ground angrily. At this moment, Zhou Hao was lying in bed and lost in thought. He did not know what the Battle God Battalion was, but since Bai Linglong had recommended it so strongly, Zhou Hao still felt that this place might really be able to help him achieve his goal. Therefore, he was very anxious for Bai Linglong's news. Transacting with mutated beasts was also a solution. "I didn't expect it to be like this." Zhou Hao snorted as disgust rose in his heart. However, in the end, this matter was related to him. He couldn't just sit idly by. "What level is this soul-devouring beast?" Zhou Hao asked. "Quasi-heaven realm. However, this soul-devouring beast's combat strength is very strong, its most proficient attack method is soul attacks. It feeds on souls and uses its brain to release superconducting waves to release intense lethality. Ordinary martial artists are really not its match. I'm afraid that it'll even be very difficult for me to win against it. The Wilderness Golden Eagle said. Understand? Zhou Hao smiled and said. After saying this, Zhou Hao left. Since he had figured out what was happening, the matter had become easy to resolve. Zhou Kangdao wanted to eliminate the people in the Red Cliff Abyss. Zhou Hao also had the same goal. It was better for Zhou Hao to sit by and let Zhou Kangdao help him accomplish this goal. However, how could Zhou Hao agree to give half of the Red Cliff Abyss to the soul-devouring beast? Therefore, after they cleaned up the Red Cliff Abyss, it would also be time for him to take action. Zhou Hao ignored this matter. At this moment, Bai Linglong's news arrived. Zhou Hao, there's news from the Battle God Battalion. They decided to give you a chance to join the assessment. If you pass the assessment, you can officially join the Battle God Battalion. Bai Linglong's words made Zhou Hao very excited. He hurriedly said, "What's the assessment?" Bai Linglong did not know either. "I really don't know about this, but someone will tell you about it. Moreover, I've already spoken to the higher UPS of the Green Cloud Division. It's mainly thanks to Heavenly King Zhu that you were given this opportunity." Zhou Hao smiled. He did not expect Heavenly King Zhu to help him. Perhaps it was because of Senior Zhou. Over the next 2 days, Heavenly King Zhu will go to your place and learn about Senior Zhou's situation. Just tell the truth. Bai Linglong said. Zhou Hao frowned when he heard this. Chapter 436, Black Demon. Zhou Hao frowned. Heavenly King Zhu was probably visiting him for Senior Zhou. After all, this was not a small matter in the Green Cloud Division. Zhou Hao was somewhat worried. He did not know why Heavenly King Zhu was looking for him. However, Zhou Hao still agreed. "All right, Instructor Bai, don't worry. I'll definitely tell him everything I know." Bai Linglong did not say anything else and immediately hung up. After hanging up the phone, Zhou Hao took a deep breath and opened the Heaven Dao software. Zhou Hao had not opened the Heaven Dao software for a while. He had just opened it when the chat exploded. "The big shot is here. Heavens, the big shot is finally here. Big shot, what are you going to do this time? Are you still going to dominate the screen?" Zhou Hao smiled and could not be bothered to answer. He directly opened the shop. Although he did not have much money, Zhou Hao still wanted to see if there was anything good. Most importantly, Zhou Hao wanted to see what the blue crystal was. However, Zhou Hao did not find it after searching for a long time. He still did not know what it was. Zhou Hao exited the Heaven Dao software and ignored it. At this moment, Zhou Hao's expression changed and his face was immediately filled with ecstasy. "Master, I've already finished devouring the intelligent entity." Little Yu's voice sounded in Zhou Hao's mind, shocking him. "It's actually so fast. I thought you would need more than a month." Zhou Hao could not help but speak. It had only been a month since Little Yu started devouring the outer space intelligent entity. He did not expect it to finish so quickly. "I didn't expect it to be so fast either. After devouring it, I'll be able to master all of its existing mechanical structures." "Master, you can come and find me. I can tell you about it." After Little Yu finished speaking, Zhou Hao became anxious. His body moved, and he arrived at the Red Cliff Abyss where Little Yu was. It was still the same cave. After Zhou Hao walked in, he felt different. This originally unfamiliar cave had become so intimate at this moment. It was as if he could control everything here. "Little Yu, I'm here." Zhou Hao arrived and said directly. Immediately, the cave changed. The wall moved and directly revealed a metal wall. It was completely black and very deep. The surrounding light lit up, and a long beam of light seemed to shine from the wall, illuminating the path in front. Although it was bright, it was not dazzling at all. Zhou Hao followed this path to the end. When he arrived, he was stunned for a moment. This was like the cockpit of a plane, but it was very simple. There was only a chair and a huge screen in front of it. At this moment, all kinds of data were displayed on it, making Zhou Hao stunned for a moment. Is this a spaceship? Zhou Hao also knew a little about spacecraft. Some of the human flying equipment was very well made. For example, those fighter planes were all high-tech. However, Zhou Hao still felt that this spacecraft was definitely a level higher than the human fighter planes. Master, welcome to the Black Demon. Little Yu's voice sounded, and then the cockpit lit up. Black Demon? What do you mean? Zhou Hao could not help but ask. It's like this, Master. This Black Demon is a legendary level warship. Because it's made of Black Demon stone, it's completely black and is very fast. Moreover, its combat strength is like a demon, so it was named Black Demon. And now, the Black Demon's intelligent entity has been devoured by me. The owner of this warship is now you. Little Yu smiled and said with a voice that was filled with humanity. Zhou Hao sat in a chair. Although he was shocked, he quickly accepted it. He had already learned about outer space civilization from the Azure Dragon King, so he was not that surprised by this warship. At this moment, the appearance of a spaceship appeared on the screen. This spaceship looked very exaggerated. The oval-shaped warship body had two huge bone spikes, looking ferocious and terrifying like the crown of a demon. It was very domineering. What Master saw was the appearance of this warship. However, it is currently severely damaged and many functions are unable to be activated. Flying is also very difficult and it can only maintain the basic functions. However, it is similar to the 1000 feather armor and is self-repairing, however. The energy needed to repair it is incomparable to the 1000 feather armor. After Little Yu finished speaking, many red parts appeared on the black three-dimensional pattern on the screen. Zhou Hao knew that these red parts must be severely damaged. After taking it a look, he realized that 90% of them were damaged. It's so severely injured. Can it still be repaired? Zhou Hao asked worriedly. Master, the core energy supply reactor of the Black Demon is no longer here. If it is, it will recover very quickly. Little Yu said at this moment. These words made Zhou Hao suddenly think of something and he hurriedly said, Core reactor? Is it a blue crystal? After Zhou Hao finished speaking, Little Yu was stunned for a moment and hurriedly said, Yes, Master. As he spoke, a blue crystal appeared on the screen. It was the one guarded by the wilderness golden eagle. That's the one. I know where it is. Zhou Hao said excitedly. That's great, Master. This reactor is a product of an ancient civilization. It has nearly unlimited energy and can provide energy to the ship continuously. At the same time, it can also provide you with an endless supply of essence energy cultivation. Master, where is it now? Let's go and retrieve it. Little Yu was very impatient. After all, this thing was a part of this spacecraft. If he could retrieve it, repairing it would be very easy. All right. Zhou Hao immediately changed into the 1000 feather armor. At the same time, Little Yu activated this spacecraft. Immediately, the entire mountain shook. Zhou Hao could sense a huge thing rising from the ground. The screen in front of him immediately turned into a transparent glass that could see everything outside. Zhou Hao identified the direction and directly led Little Yu away. Not long after, they arrived at the location of the wilderness golden eagle. The wilderness golden eagle was frightened by this scene, but it only heaved a sigh of relief when it saw Zhou Hao in silver armor. Master, what's going on? The wilderness golden eagle was simply frightened to death. What was this black thing? Don't ask what you shouldn't know. Zhou Hao did not want to tell him. There were some things that he did not want to reveal. It was not because he was worried that the wilderness golden eagle would betray him, but because there was no need for him to tell it. Little Yu directly controlled this flying ship and projected a strange light that shone into the cave. Immediately, a blue crystal was slowly absorbed by the flying ship. The moment the blue crystal entered the spacecraft, Zhou Hao felt an endless essence energy spread out from the cabin. Chapter 437, Zhu Zhao's Request. Master, the core reactor has been fully absorbed. It's only a matter of time before we fully repair this spaceship. Zhou Hao was somewhat depressed when he saw such a huge spacecraft. Little Yu, you should hide the spaceship. It's too big and too conspicuous. Zhou Hao knew that this spacecraft could only be used when he entered outer space in the future. Now, it was basically useless. Little Yu did not say anything else and directly burrowed the ship into the ground. It was immersed in the ground for 100 meters and concealed all its aura. Wild Mess Golden Eagle, you're not allowed to tell anyone about today's matter. Your mission is to protect this spacecraft. If anything happens, believe me, I'll make you die a very ugly death. Zhou Hao ordered the Wilderness Golden Eagle. The Wilderness Golden Eagle naturally did not hesitate and immediately agreed. Zhou Hao did not know what level Little Yu was at as an intelligent entity, but he felt that it was at least much stronger than this Black Demon's intelligent entity. While it was controlling the spacecraft, it could also keep its consciousness in the 1,000-feather armor. In other words, it could control both the 1,000-feather armor and the Black Demon from anywhere on planet Earth. Zhou Hao was also very surprised by this, but Little Yu gave a clear answer. Because planet Earth itself is very small. My signal acceptance is at the cosmic level. In other words, my signal can cover the entire planet Earth. At its peak, it can cover the entire solar system. After saying this, Zhou Hao was extremely shocked. This signal covered the entire planet Earth. Such ability was probably impossible for the humans and machine race on planet Earth. Just as Zhou Hao left and returned to the Red Cliff Abyss, he received news from Heavenly King Zhu. Zhou Hao hurriedly waited in the commander residence. However, Heavenly King Zhu came in secret this time and did not take the plane like Su Chong and the others. Of course, Heavenly King Zhu's cultivation was at the heaven realm. Even ordinary planes were probably unable to compare to him. Zhou Hao, long time no see. I didn't expect you to break through to the supernatural level so quickly. Heavenly King Zhu still had a big belly and looked amiable. Greetings, Heavenly King Zhu, Zhou Hao hurriedly said. Although he had interacted with this guy many times, that was only with Senior Zhou's identity. And now, this was the first time he was meeting him with Zhou Hao's identity. There's no need to be so polite. Zhou Hao, I heard from Bai Linglong that you want to join the Battle God Battalion. Originally, with your background, it's very difficult for you to enter. The Battle God Battalion is a special organization that's on par with the 7 large divisions. Not only do you need to have talent, but you also have an absolute background and faction to enter. However, I still let you in because of my selfishness. When Heavenly King Zhu said this, Zhou Hao narrowed his eyes and had a guess. No. You might have already guessed it. It's because of Senior Zhou. When Heavenly King Zhu said this, his tone was solemn. Zhou Hao could sense that be it Zhu Zhao, Bai Linglong, or even his comrades who were fighting alongside him, they did not believe that Senior Zhou would threaten the humans. However, this was an order from the higher UPS. They were helpless. They had refuted and questioned this order before, but no one could change it. This was not something that could be changed just because of someone's will. When Zhou Hao heard this, he asked, Heavenly King Zhu, are you still trying to arrest my master? The fact that Zhou Hao was Senior Zhou's disciple was basically a semi-official matter. There were many people who knew about it, and Zhou Hao did not hide it. Zhu Zhao nodded. That's right. This matter can't be changed. However, don't worry. Fortunately, no one knows the exact clues about Senior Zhou now. Therefore, even if we want to capture him, it's still very difficult. There's no need for us to worry about him. Instead, I'm worried about you. Zhu Zhao looked at Zhou Hao. Entering the Battle God Battalion is very dangerous. However, in comparison, your future development is also limitless. I can tell you clearly that the Battle God Battalion is an elite among the human elites. The foundation for joining the Battle God Battalion is to become a supernatural expert. As for you, you just passed the basic requirement. To be honest, Zhou Hao, as a higher up of the Green Cloud Division, I don't want you to join. However, for the sake of your personal development, I still want you to join. This is also the reason why I secretly came to see you this time. I don't want others to know that I was the one who recommended you to enter the Battle God Battalion. I'm worried that someone will interfere in the Green Cloud Division. As for why, I think you can guess even if I don't tell you. Let's not talk about it. After Zhu Zhao finished speaking, he directly took out a gold badge with a fist engraved on it. It looked very imposing. This badge is your identity, but you still need to go through an assessment. I don't know what the assessment is exactly. Someone will contact you. With that said, Zhu Zhao patted Zhou Hao's shoulder. Lonely have one request. After you join the Battle God Battalion, you have to think of a way to protect your master, understand? After Zhu Zhao finished speaking, Zhou Hao smiled. Heavenly King Zhu, don't worry. I will. Zhou Hao actually wanted to say that Senior Zhou did not need protection at all because Senior Zhou would not appear in the future. Alright, I'll go back first. You have a week to return to Chu City. This is because after you join the Battle God Battalion, you might not be able to return to Chu City for a long time. Heavenly King Zhu knew Zhou Hao's identity very well. His identity on the surface was all in the information, so it was not a secret. Got it. Zhou Hao nodded. As for the Red Cliff Abyss, you can also rest assured. With Yin Feng and the others around, Yuan Cheng and the others will be fine. Moreover, this is originally a training ground. If you're not around, it might be a good thing for Yuan Cheng and the others. Zhu Zhao smiled. After all, Zhou Hao was a supernatural expert and was always able to protect them. Therefore, their development would be affected in the long run. It had to be known that a person's potential could only develop under high pressure. After all, if there was no pressure, how could this potential be developed? I understand. Zhou Hao smiled and said. All right, that's all I have to say. You can leave the 100 City tomorrow. With that said, Heavenly King Zhu left. Zhou Hao did not tell Yuan Cheng and the others that he had joined the Battle God Battalion. After all, he was not a member of the Battle God Battalion yet. He only told them that he had to deal with some private matters and left. After thinking for a moment, he realized that he had not returned home for a long time. Although he could always communicate with his parents, how could communication be compared to meeting them in person? Therefore, Zhou Hao still wanted to return home. Chapter 438, Going Home. The next morning, Zhou Hao left the Red Cliff Abyss and took a plane back to Chu City. Regarding this return, it was naturally done in secret. Although Zhou Hao had many friends who wanted to see him, after thinking for a moment, he decided to not see them first. After all, many of his close friends were not in Chu City and had gone to the various training bases. When Zhou Hao arrived in Chu City, it was already afternoon. He hurriedly returned to Yang Garden residence and prepared to go home. However, just as he reached home, he saw a familiar figure and was immediately stunned. Su Ling. That's right, it was Su Ling. Zhou Hao did not expect to see Su Ling here. At this moment, she was accompanying his parents and talking happily. It could be seen that his parents were also very happy. Zhou Hao took a deep breath and walked over. Dad, Mom, I'm back. Zhou Hao's sudden return made Wang Shiyun and Zhou Suiwo extremely excited. Little Hao, you're back. Wang Shiyun's eyes turned red. She had not seen her son for so long, so she was naturally excited. It was not only Wang Shiyun. Even Zhou Suiwo was the same. He looked at his son and was so excited that he could not speak. There was also Su Ling. Although the two of them had not seen each other for only a few weeks, she almost could not control her emotions the moment she saw Zhou Hao and wanted to fall into his arms. If not for Zhou Suiwo and Wang Shiyun, Su Ling would have pounced over long ago. Zhou Hao looked at Su Ling. With regards to her not replying to his messages, Zhou Hao could also understand that she must not want to cause trouble for him. After all, even her communication equipment might have been monitored. Su Ling, why are you here? Zhou Hao asked with a smile. I come to Chu City to do something, so. Su Ling was a little nervous and her face turned red. On the other hand, Wang Shiyun could tell what was going on and could not help but say. Ever since Su Ling returned to the Jiangnan base, she has visited us twice. As for you, you haven't been back for so long. Wang Shiyun could not help but say. Of course, she could tell that these two liked each other. However, the couple also knew about the situation in Su Ling's family and knew what their son had to face. Dad, Mom, let's go in and talk. Let's not stay outside. After all, Zhou Hao had returned secretly this time. Moreover, his assessment was in a week, and Zhou Hao did not want to cause too much commotion. Then you guys chat. I'll go back first, Su Ling said. Of course, she wanted to stay with Zhou Hao for a while longer, but she still understood that Zhou Hao had not seen his parents for a while. His parents must have missed him terribly and had a lot to say. It was not good for her to stay here either. All right, I'll look for you later. How many days will you stay in Chu City? Zhou Hao asked. I should be able to stay for a few more days. I'll stay at my house, Su Ling said with a smile. All right. Zhou Hao nodded. After Su Ling left, Zhou Hao and his parents walked into the villa. Just as they entered, Wang Shiyun could not help but say, Son, Su Ling is a good girl. I don't care. No matter what you do, you have to marry her into the Zhou family, understand? Mom, don't worry. I will. Zhou Hao smiled. Yes, I've already decided on this daughter-in-law anyway. I don't care about anything else. Wang Shiyun also smiled. You're really a busybody. Son, why did you suddenly return without informing us in advance? Did you also choose to stay back in the base? They still knew a little about the choices facing martial artists who broke through to the supernatural level. They had learned about most things from Su Ling. Didn't choose to redeem. I just took a few days off. I still have to leave in a few days, Zhou Hao couldn't help but say. You still have to leave? Son, can you return to the Jiangnan area and be a special envoy? I can't bear to be away from you, Wang Shiyun held Zhou Hao's hand and hurriedly said. Look at you. You're really a woman. My son is a martial artist now. If he wants to fight for the sake of the human race, how can you be so greedy to hold him back? Don't interfere in his work. I believe my son will choose well. Zhou Suiwo said at this moment. He understood his son's mission and was also proud of him. He was just saying. Although Wang Shiyun also understood this, she still couldn't help but want her son to stay by her side. However, he also knew that it was wrong for her to think like this. Zhou Hao smiled. He also understood what his parents were thinking, but he still could not listen to his mother. Although he could not change the situation with his strength alone, there were still many problems for the humans. Zhou Hao naturally had to do his best. Dad, Mom, let's not talk about me for now. How have you two been? Zhou Hao changed the topic and asked with a smile. Of course it's very good. Ever since you became a martial artist, your father and I have been living comfortably. No one in the unit dares to bully us anymore. Your father's factory is also doing well. You don't have to worry about us, Wang Shiyun said with a smile. Zhou Hao understood that he was now a supernatural expert. To Chu City, he was basically a god. Those people naturally knew. After dinner with his parents at night, Zhou Hao walked out of Yang Garden residence alone. He really wanted to see Su Ling now. He did not know how she had been during this period of time and also wanted to ask her in person why she did not reply to his messages. Was it as he had guessed? After sending Su Ling a message, the two of them arranged to meet at the school field. It had been a long time since they returned to school. At this time, there were naturally no outsiders in the school. The two of them were supernatural experts, so it was still easy for them to enter the school quietly. When Zhou Hao arrived at the school, he felt Su Ling's aura. She was in the classroom. Zhou Hao walked into the classroom and saw Su Ling, who was sitting in her seat quietly and elegantly, looking at something. Sensing that Zhou Hao had entered, Su Ling looked up and smiled. It's been a long time since we returned to school. To be honest, I really miss school. Zhou Hao smiled and walked over to sit beside her. That's right. Miss Su was very strict with me back then. TCH, if not for me, would you have improved so much today? Shouldn't you be thanking me? Su Ling covered her mouth and smiled. Of course. Zhou Hao smiled and took a deep breath before asking, Su Ling, why haven't you replied to my messages recently? When Su Ling heard Zhou Hao's question, she also revealed a difficult expression. She thought for a moment and said, It's not that I don't want to contact you. I just don't want to cause you trouble. You should know my difficulties. Su Ling's expression was filled with loneliness. Of course, she did not want to ignore Zhou Hao, but there were many people in the family who spied on her. If she and Zhou Hao continued to be like this, she would really cause trouble for Zhou Hao. Especially the Long family. Chapter 439, Test. Zhou Hao naturally understood that Su Ling did not want to cause trouble for him. After all, Su Chong had really tried to kill him. Zhou Hao would not tell Su Ling about this. It was not that he did not want to tell her, but he could not. It would not change anything even if he said it. It would only trouble her more. It was just like how Su Ling avoided contacting Zhou Hao to not trouble him. The two of them understood each other's difficulties and did not want to cause trouble for each other. Their best solution right now was to hide things from each other. Su Ling, do you know the Battle God Battalion? Zhou Hao suddenly asked. Comment. Hearing this, Su Ling's expression immediately changed. She looked at Zhou Hao in shock. You're going to the Battle God Battalion. Su Ling was very smart. She knew Zhou Hao's intentions from his question. Zhou Hao nodded. That's right. I want to go to the Battle God Battalion for myself and for you. This was Zhou Hao's decision and had nothing to do with anyone. It was just his thoughts. After all, only by doing so would there be a glimmer of hope. This. Su Ling looked at Zhou Hao, her eyes filled with tears. Of course, she knew why Zhou Hao wanted to join the Battle God Battalion. Zhou Hao, I know what you're thinking, but the Battle God Battalion is really too dangerous. It's not just our Huaxia. There's also the Western countries. This is an international organization. Life and death, it's no longer within our country's jurisdiction. Su Ling spoke at this moment. Her meaning was very obvious. She did not want Zhou Hao to take the risk. At the same time, she also told Zhou Hao that this Battle God Battalion was under the international organization and was not controlled by their country. The conflict between humans and mutated beasts was not only a problem of the eastern countries but also a problem of the western countries. However, neither party wanted to interfere too much in the other party's internal affairs. Therefore, they established the Battle God Battalion. As long as the martial artists of both sides met the requirements, they could choose to join. This was why it was said that the martial artists of the Battle God Battalion had a high status. Because it was an international organization, it was not under the jurisdiction of any country. They had their own rules in the Battle God Battalion. In other words, if a member of the Battle God Battalion killed any innocent person in the country, the local authorities would not be able to convict them. Only by following the international organization's rules could they convict them. No matter how furious they were, this was the reality. This was the authority of the Battle God Battalion. Although Zhou Hao did not know much, it was too late to say anything now. Someone would contact him in a few days and Zhou Hao would also think of a way to join. Su Ling, don't worry about me. Trust me, I'll go to the Su family one day and marry you. Zhou Hao said very solemnly. Su Ling Zhong nodded solemnly and hugged Zhou Hao lightly. At the same time, just as Zhu Zhao returned to the base and was handling documents in his office, the communication device rang, making his expression change. He hurriedly opened it. The screen was dark, but a deep voice sounded. Heavenly King Zhu. When Zhu Zhao heard this voice, his expression revealed veneration. He hurriedly said, Senior Wind God, you were looking for me. There are still some questions regarding Zhou Hao from the Green Cloud Division. We need to confirm them. His gloomy voice was void of emotion. Zhu Zhao immediately took a deep breath and replied, Senior Wind God, please speak. TM just checking with you. Is this Zhou Hao really only 18 years old and has already stepped into the supernatural level? Zhu Zhao immediately nodded. That's right, Senior Wind God. I can guarantee that. Very good. In that case, there's a chance for him to join the Battle God Battalion. However, don't be too optimistic. Although you were the one who recommended it, the assessment will still be carried out. Only by passing it will he be able to join the Battle God Battalion. You should know this, Heavenly King. Zhu Zhao nodded. Senior Wind God, I know this. I want to ask you to give him a chance to take the assessment. Alright, but this opportunity is not very optimistic. You should know that the Battle God Battalion is jointly managed by the East and the West. It's the most authoritative organization of our human race. It's not up to you who gets to join. Moreover, there are only a few spots this year. I can't guarantee that Zhou Hao will get one. After Zhu Zhao heard this, he also understood. Do your best and leave it to fate. If Zhou Hao can't do it, then it's because he's not capable enough. He can't blame anyone. The voice in the communication device also agreed with Zhu Zhao. That's right. However, I still need a simple report from him. Although he has become a supernatural expert, we still have no need for ordinary supernatural experts with no outstanding talent. Therefore, help me test him. I want to see the data for the physical and mental strength tests. Senior Wind God, don't worry. I'll arrange it immediately. When Zhu Zhao heard this, he immediately agreed. With that said, the communication device darkened and cut off the connection. Zhu Zhao took a deep breath and thought for a moment. He contacted Zhou Hao and did not say much. Instead, he got him to come to the Green Cloud Division immediately. Zhou Hao was eating at home when he received Zhu Zhao's message. He was stunned for a moment, but he did not hesitate at all. After eating, he rode a plane to the Green Cloud Division's base in the 12th Spatial Rift and saw Zhu Zhao. Zhou Hao, the main reason why I called you over is to check your comprehensive quality. This is very important and will decide whether you can join the Battle God Battalion. When Zhu Zhao saw Zhou Hao, he did not waste his breath and said directly. Comprehensive quality. Zhou Hao was stunned for a moment. He really did not understand this matter. It's very simple. It's mainly to test your physical strength, mental strength, and bloodline potential. It's mainly these qualities. Don't worry, I'll tell you how to measure it. At this point, Zhu Zhao directly brought Zhou Hao underground. There were more than 10 floors below, in a sealed space. Our ordinary supernatural experts usually have a strength of 100,000 kilograms and a speed of 200 meters per second. This is only the basic level of supernatural experts. However, this number is not up to the standards of the Battle God Battalion. Therefore, in order to allow you to take the test and at the same time, To provide data on your strength, this step is still indispensable. Zhu Zhao looked at Zhou Hao and said. Zhou Hao did not care. His current strength was comparable to a third-grade Heaven Realm expert. Even Zhu Zhao was probably not stronger than him. After all, the God-slaying art and the 9 revolutions overlord body art both enhanced one's combat strength. If he used them, not to mention 100,000 kilograms, he would probably be able to hit even 10 million kilograms. Alright, I'm willing to accept the test. Zhou Hao smiled. Then let's begin. This machine that tests strength can withstand 2 million kilograms of strength. It can basically withstand the strength of a 5th-grade supernatural expert. If you can reach 1 million, you will be qualified to participate in the Battle God Battalion assessment. Zhu Zhao said at this moment. However, in the next second, he was shocked. This was because he saw Zhou Hao's punch reached 1.9 million. Chapter 440, Powerful Strength. Just as Zhu Zhao finished speaking, Zhou Hao punched. Although he seemed to have used his full strength, and even his veins were bulging, it was all an act. He only used 20% of his strength in this punch. However, this 20% strength still made Zhu Zhao widen his eyes. 1.9 million. Zhu Zhao's mouth gaped open in shock. It was not that Zhou Hao's punch was powerful, but that among first-grade supernatural experts, those who could break through 500,000 were all outstanding. Those who could break through 1 million were even rarer. However, he had never seen 1.9 million even after so many years. Comment. Ha ha ha, Zhou Hao, you really surprised me. You have enough strength. Test your speed. Heavenly King Zhu, the supernatural level is 200 meters per second. How many meters is the minimum requirement to join the Battle God Battalion? Zhou Hao was naturally asking this because he did not want to make too many people suspicious. After all, strength was not speed. Strength could be trained. The martial artists who fought in close combat were very powerful. However, speed was not easy to increase. As the saying goes, speed is the only thing that cannot be defeated in the world. Everything would be fine if one was fast. Normally, it's 200 meters per second, but to be qualified to join the Battle God Battalion, you need at least 300 meters. After all, the Battle God Battalion is all abnormal. You should understand, Zhu Zhao smiled and said. Zhou Hao nodded and walked to the testing machine. He pulled his body into the shape of a bow before his body moved and he directly rushed out. The value of the machine instantly increased to 330. This scene shocked Heavenly King Zhu even more. Originally thought that the reason why Zhou Hao has such strength is because he's a melee martial artist. I didn't expect his speed to be so shocking. Looks like our Green Cloud division has really produced a genius. At this moment, Zhu Zhao was a little regretful. If only such a powerful genius was in the Green Cloud division. However, he did not regret it for long. After all, for Zhou Hao's sake, joining the Battle God Battalion was the best solution. It was better than developing his future in the Green Cloud division. Moreover, for the sake of Senior Zhou, he still decided to let Zhou Hao join the Battle God Battalion. Very good, very good. Zhou Hao, you really surprise me constantly. 330 meters. At your cultivation level, I can only reach 260 meters. That's already the limit. Zhu Zhao was not exaggerating. He would never forget Zhou Hao's scores in his life. Heavenly King Zhu, in that case, I guess I also qualified with my speed, Zhou Hao said with a smile. Like before, he did not use his full strength just now. If he used the Golden Crow escape technique, not to mention 330 meters, even 3000 meters would be possible. After all, the Golden Crow escape technique was already considered a relatively precious cultivation technique among movement techniques. Of course, if even he was unable to qualify, then no one would be able to join the Battle God Battalion. Zhu Zhao smiled. After calculating, he took out a helmet-like item and handed it to Zhou Hao. This is an instrument used to measure mental strength. A normal supernatural value is 3000 mental strength. If you reach the standard of the Battle God Battalion, your mental strength should be at least 5000. I think your mental strength should be pretty good. It has to be known that the strength of a martial artist depends on their strength and speed. However, everyone knows that the internal mental strength is the driving force that controls the external. Only when your mental strength is powerful can you mobilize such strength and speed. Zhu Zhao explained, and Zhou Hao nodded. It was fine as long as it exceeded 3000. Zhou Hao put on his helmet and then a brainwave shot out from the peephole. If you feel the pain is unbearable, close it. Don't force yourself. Otherwise, it will easily cause damage to your brain. Heavenly King Zhu hurriedly said. Zhou Hao looked at the number. It had already gone from 0 to more than 1000. However, Zhou Hao did not have any reaction. Zhou Hao knew that his combat strength was powerful, but he did not know how much mental strength he had. However, he did not dare to make the number too high. He could only exceed 3000. Otherwise, if he went all out and increased the number by too much, it would be suspicious. Soon, the value stopped at 4800. Seeing this, Zhu Zhao still nodded. Although he was not as surprised this time, 4800 still shocked Zhu Zhao. He's really a little abnormal. His speed is 330,000 and his strength is 1.9 million. Now, even his mental strength is 4800. This is not the standard of a first-grade supernatural expert. This is at least the standard of a third-grade supernatural expert or even a fourth-grade supernatural expert. In other words, Zhou Hao is currently only a first-grade supernatural expert, but the strength he erupts with is not much weaker than a third-grade supernatural expert. This was Zhu Zhao's definition, but this did not necessarily mean that Zhou Hao could defeat third-grade and fourth-grade martial artists. This was because there was a difference in cultivation level. Moreover, this was only a physical test. It did not mean much. Supernatural martial artists all had their own cultivation techniques. Once they used it, there was definitely a difference in the result. However, he did not know that the Zhou Hao in front of him was not a supernatural expert at all, but a quasi-heaven realm expert. He even surpassed the quasi-heaven realm, and its combat strength was close to that of a third-grade heaven realm expert. Heavenly King Zhu, did I qualify? Zhou Hao asked. Yes, you qualified. Zhou Hao, go back and wait for the news. I believe the Battle God Battalion will give you the news soon. Zhu Zhao looked at the data and was very shocked. In order to let Senior Wind God see it more directly and not feel that he was lying to get Zhou Hao to join the Battle God Battalion, he specially recorded the test and sent it to Senior Wind God. At this moment, two people were sitting in the cockpit of a triangular mysterious plane. Amon in black armor had a murderous expression. On his belt was the word wind. It was the Senior Wind God Zhu Zhao was talking about. Sitting opposite him was a fair-skinned man with long hair. His cultivation was also extraordinary. On his long hair was a feather with a word engraved on it. Rain. Brother Wind, the Battle God Battalion has not been peaceful recently. Sigh, there are so many spies and mutated beasts. It's a little troublesome to deal with them. The fair-skinned man said helplessly as he tasted the red wine in his hand. Humph, that's because they haven't met me, otherwise, they'll be directly killed. Wind God snorted and did not care at all. Stop bragging, do you think you're really able to kill them all alone? Did you forget that you almost died in your last mission when you were sent to kill a 9th-grade Heaven Realm human spy? The Rain God could not help but pout and expose the other party's true colors. A bunch of rats can only resort to such shady methods. Senior Wind God was still disdainful. At this moment, Zhu Zhao's message was sent over. It was divided into words and videos. Senior Wind God opened the text and checked. With just a glance, he was shocked.